Tonight I'm talking with Professor Spence. Professor Spence has written, and actually I have the book right here, and I've enjoyed this book so much. I brought him on, Professor Lester Spence. I brought him on not just to talk about his book, but to talk about the election, as well as in context of the issues that are the looming issues. So we're going to talk about that, particularly one of his articles that he wrote for the Jacobin.com, a great article in light of the Department of Justice report on Baltimore. So we're going to try to squeeze as much as that as we can. Starting at about 9:20, I will be speaking with Professor Lester K. Spence. Professor Lester K. Spence. And we'll be talking about his book, as well as his most recent article in Jacobin magazine, that deals directly with the economic plight of African Americans and the differences between experiences on a class-based level, right? I loved his article, and I'll let him tell us more about it. But his article dealt with how, even though people of color experience racism, the experience with racism has the possibility and likelihood of being uniquely different based on what class structure you're in or what class you're in. And so we'll be speaking with him momentarily as soon as I can get him connected. But if you haven't read his book is also a phenomenal piece which unpacks the problems, are the beginnings and the problems with the neoliberal hustle in the Black community. And so we have him here. He's joining us now. Professor Spence, thanks so much for joining me. How are you today?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much again for joining us. I know we've been trying to connect on this for a little while, and my audience was very excited to know that you were coming on. For those of you who may not know, Professor Spence is an associate professor of political science and Africana studies at Johns Hopkins University. And he is a prolific voice on the issue of class and race. But I particularly wanted to talk to him about his article in Jacobin.com, as well as portions of his book. Professor Spence, thanks again for joining me. Could you just start by just telling me, this is kind of a big, broad question, but, take whatever portion of it that you want. But how have you seen, or what have you felt about the role of race in this particular election, and how it, in my opinion, and maybe you've seen this and maybe you agree with it or not, I don't know, but how it's been leveraged to push the neoliberal economic paradigm by virtue of Hillary Clinton?
Oh, that's a great question. So with somebody in Donald Trump, what we've got is somebody who uses who doesn't really use dog whistles, right? So right. For the Republican Party and a number of folks in the Democratic Party for years have been making implicit racialized claims in order to attract moderate to conservative white voters. And somebody like Donald Trump, you have somebody who's basically just telling people almost as close to explicitly racial comments or racist comments as you can get. So that's on the Republican end. The Democratic end, what we actually see with Hillary Clinton is her using racial and actually articulating policies that are far more left than what she did when she was helping Bill Clinton run and win office. Mm-hmm. And to be fair, a lot of that is due to the political pressure she's received from Black Lives Matter activists. But with that said, I think Adolph's pretty much right when he I think refers to her as what, the neoliberal warmonger. Mm-hmm. Although she's moved left policy-wise, borrowing some of the stuff from Bernie Sanders, and I agree with Adolph. I think that's a victory. She's still the person who believes that the market is the primary vehicle to kind of ameliorate or to distribute resources, and what government should do is kind of work as do whatever it can in order to assist business development, and domestically and abroad.
Okay. Yeah.